I have had the best co-hosts in May for Escape the Readathon, but are they good at recommending books? I gave them a list of 12 things that I tend to really like in books, and I asked them to recommend a book to me that they thought I would like that had one or more of these elements. So the 12 things were isolation, fast-paced, weird, games, psychological, revenge, creepy, sense of dread, sarcastic characters, science-y, genre blends, and unexplained/ambiguous. So I set up a form, I have a spreadsheet, I have hidden who has given me each recommendation. So I'm going to be reading 6 books in this video. I have 8 co-hosts, 7 of them wanted to give me a recommendation. I don't know if I'd want to give me a recommendation either. And 2 of them happened to pick the same book. So these are the 6 books that I will be reading in this video. When I read them, I'm going to tell you what they were picked for and guess who picked them. So I will be reading Boys in the Valley by Philip Fracassi, The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence, Bad Movie Night by Patrick Lacey, A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik, The Other Side of Night by Patrick Hamdy, and Intercepts by TJ Payne. This is a very interesting mix of books. I said that any genre was fine. I tend to prefer books under 400 pages, and then they could choose any that worked with at least one of the 12 things that I told them I generally like. I also told them they didn't have to love the book as long as they thought I would like it. I'm super excited to read these books. I think having personalized recommendations is always so fun and also stressful because what if I don't like them? I am starting with Boys in the Valley by Philip Fracassi. I got this signed copy from my local Barnes & Noble. I'm pretty sure he's local to me, so they had this in stock and I grabbed it, I guess a while ago at this point. This one is one that I've heard a lot of hype for. I've heard people say that this book like actually scared them, and I'm so interested in what's going to happen for that to be the case. Where I am right now, I don't feel scared by anything, but I can see how the direction it is continuing to go in could do that for people. I am on page 126, and I do know that this was not a pick from Kelsey because Kelsey and I are buddy reading this. And I have some ideas. I'm pretty sure I know who recommended this to me because I think only a couple people have read this. Oh, Stephen Graham Jones blurbed it. Interesting. Stephen Graham Jones is one of my favorites. So this one does make me a tad nervous because it says it's a gothic, gory Lord of the Flies. And it took me 2 years to read Lord of the Flies because I didn't like it and did not really know the concept of DNFing. I mean, I understood that I didn't have to finish it, but like I was such a completionist. So we are at St. Vincent's Orphanage for Boys in the early 20th century, yes, in a remote valley in Pennsylvania. So at the very beginning, we watch our main character, the experience that led him to becoming an orphan. And now there are 32 boys at this orphanage, and Peter is the main character that we are following. He is an older teenager at this point, and then late one stormy night, a group of men show up to the orphanage, and one is badly wounded with occult symbols carved into his flesh. And then his death releases an ancient evil. And there's something that happens with him that's in the synopsis, but I feel like that tells a little bit too much. So where I am right now, the stuff that is the consequences of the people showing up in the middle of the night is starting to happen. And I'm really interested in what is going to continue with that because there's lots of things that could happen. I really liked the first chapter and like getting the backstory of how Peter ended up in this orphanage. I thought it was very interesting, and like the way it was written, like I was so angry. This book is making me mad. They have these priests that are running this. People that use religion to act in ways like this, no. So there's a lot of that that's just like making me so angry, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what is going to come of all of the things that have happened in the first, 35% of this. It is split into 4 parts, so right now I am in part 2. I'm pretty close to part 3, so that's where I have to get to the end of our buddy read today. So I think tomorrow I will be roughly 2/3 in, and I will give you another update. I have continued to like it more and more as it goes, so I hope it continues doing that. The person that I think picked this one for me said that at halfway is when it really started to pick up for her, and she ended up really loving it from that. So I have very, very high hopes and things are looking positive, which is great considering how much I hate Lord of the Flies. I have now made it pretty far into Boys in the Valley. I just got to part 4, and this part is where it started to feel like Lord of the Flies. Here's the situation. I think I told you that it took me 2 years to read The Lord of the Flies. I don't like it, and I don't remember if I didn't like the writing, I didn't like the plot, but overall I have very negative feelings towards The Lord of the Flies. This is a Lord of the Flies retelling. The person that put this on this list knows that I don't like Lord of the Flies, but has not read it, so had no real feelings either way if it felt too much like it in different ways. And Kelsey, who I'm buddy reading this, also was like, oh, it doesn't feel like Lord of the Flies. She hasn't read it. The part that I just read definitely feels like the Lord of the Flies. I'm not hating it, though. It is fine. I just don't particularly care about stories where violence is at the forefront, which seems weird because I'm always like, ooh, I need murder in my books, and like I want them to be dark and disturbing. But when like the thing that is supposed to be the like really horrific stuff is like just straight violence, I'm like, it's kind of boring. This one does have an added element of a possible like demonic, haunting, like otherworldly kind of thing, which is the thing that is making it interesting, but that is not explored enough in my opinion. We're just watching these boys slash each other up and like turn on each other, and it's fine. It's fine. I'm not hating it. It's just not my style of book. I know Kelsey's liking it a lot more than me. Actually, I think she finished it. I'm really bad at buddy reads, but I don't know. It's okay. I'm not hating my time, which is all I can ask for when it's a Lord of the Flies retelling, because the last one I read I gave 1 star. So, yep, not the best thoughts, but like it could be worse than it's fine in theory. We'll see how the rest of it goes, but I don't anticipate this being even close to 5 stars. But I do understand why it was suggested based on the requests that I had. I'm excited to finish this. Is it because I want to know what happens or because I just want to be done with it? It doesn't matter. Well, this was not 5 stars. I can see the reasoning behind it. It's isolated. There's some weird stuff going on. I don't remember the other things, but like I can see why this was recommended. Nova! The issue is just that I don't like Lord of the Flies. I don't like stories like this. I don't like when the plot is just like a bunch of violence, because it's boring. It's so boring. And I was really hoping that the like demonic stuff was going to make me invested. That was not the case. It was not prevalent enough in the story for me to care about it. Like, I don't know. It was fine. I didn't like specifically hate anything. Well, there's one thing that I don't like, the choice that was made. It was like a continuous thing throughout the book, and like the one character clearly didn't want something and another character wanted that character to want it, and then choices with that were just not my favorite. But like other than that, I don't have any issues, and like it's just this kind of story. I have read Succulina, which is Philip Fracasse's like water novella, and I enjoyed that. I think I gave it 3 or 3.5 stars. So I would read more from him. This one is going to be 2 stars from me. I am a little upset that I bought the signed copy for full price, but it's fine. Not a bad recommendation, but it didn't go well. This is not a good way to kick off this video. I'm scared. I'm now really scared for the rest of this, but I was pretty apprehensive about this one anyway. I mean, I bought it thinking that I could like it, but I'm a Lord of the Flies hater. I am. So, yeah, this was a book going to unhaul, but I am glad that I read it because I kept putting it off, and I did enjoy buddy reading it with Kelsey. She liked it significantly more than me. I am pretty sure Monica is the one that gave me this. I know Mel has read this, but I don't think that she would have been the one to recommend this one to me, looking at the other options. So, thumbs down for Monica. For legal purposes, don't yell at me. Monica and I are friends. I have already finished this, but I actually went and looked and wrote down the reasons that this book was picked. This actually checked off a bunch of things from my wish list. So it's isolation, which I definitely agree with. Fast-paced. I don't know if I agree with that one, maybe towards the end, but it didn't keep my attention. So like, I mostly disagree with this one. Weird. I get it. Not the kind of weird that I was wanting, but I would say it counts. Creepy. That feels subjective. I feel like that's an acceptable thing to put for this book. A lot of people say this is one of the scariest books they've ever read. Cannot relate, but and then also a sense of dread and unknowing, and definitely, I mean, I didn't feel that, but it was the intention of the book. Oh god. Okay, enough about this book. I just wanted to go through why this one was picked and what it fit on my list. So now I have the book that wouldn't burn to talk about. I am aware of two of my co-hosts that have read this, Cassidy and Mel. They have both read another book that was from this list, but I'm pretty sure Cassidy liked this one more than Mel, and this one was picked because of the isolation. It is science-y and a genre blend. And I have made it 145 pages into this one, which is 26%, and I'm gonna DNF this book. Here's the thing. This was given to me because I have said multiple times to Cassidy and Mel that I'm interested in trying this one. I think that it has a really interesting concept. I like the idea of like this weird library, and then the fact that it's like science-y, and I knew that there's like genre blend stuff going in and it's stuff that I'm interested in. This was one that, even though I don't tend to read a lot of fantasy, I was like, I want to try this one. And while I don't regret that, this was not the book for me. I think that it felt so slow and boring, and that nothing was happening. I had to keep rewinding things and being like, did I miss something? Because I feel like nothing has happened. I just wasn't feeling connected to anything. And I was talking to Cassidy about it, and I was like, should I keep going? Should I push through it? And she's like, no, if you're not feeling connected to anything, like, that's a lot of people's complaints about Mark Lawrence. And even though she does love Mark Lawrence, she's like, it's not going to be worth it. The reveals aren't going to be worth it if you don't care about anything. And that was kind of how I was feeling, but I was willing to try more. I know this one is so popular, and I wanted to be somebody that loved it, but I am just not. I am trying to figure out my taste in fantasy books, and a lot of my issue is that I'm so used to reading a book that is the beginning, middle, and end of a story in 350 pages. So at 150 pages, I want things to be happening, and realistically, this is the first 600-page book in a trilogy, so for the story, 150 pages is not anywhere close to where I'm used to it being. So that is just like my struggle with reading fantasy. Really, a lot of it that I have tried has been really slow and boring for me, and I'm just not interested because it just takes it so long for things to happen. And Cassidy said that like this is one that she feels is slow, so I decided that I gave it a good shot. I really tried, but this one just didn't work for me for a few different reasons. But like, I am really glad that I tried this one out because it was one that I had been talking about wanting to try. So those are my thoughts on the book that wouldn't burn. I am guessing that Cassidy is the one that gave this to me, and things are not going well for me. I didn't tell you what the synopsis was. So we are following two strangers who find themselves connected by a vast and mysterious library containing many wonders and still more secrets in this powerfully moving first book in a new series from Mark Lawrence. So there's a boy that has lived his whole life trapped within the library, and then a girl who has spent her life in a tiny settlement out on the dust where nightmares stalk and no one goes. And their stories are spiraling around each other. I was so curious about this library and everything that came with that, but I just could not get invested in the story. So a DNF for me. So far, we have a 2-star and a DNF. I'm really scared, but the next book that I am picking up is Bad Movie Night by Patrick Lacey. I'm super excited about this one. I have not heard anything about it, and I love a good horror novella, so fingers crossed it goes well. I am 53 pages into Bad Movie Night by Patrick Lacey. I had never heard of this book before. I had no idea that it existed, but it says it's a novella of supernatural horror. I don't remember any of the people that have given me books reading this, I have a guess. This one surprised me because it's in second person, which I was not expecting, and it was really weird. At first I was thinking just the prologue was going to be in second person, and then that was not the case. So it took me a little bit to like get used to reading a book in second person, but I have no issues with that. So we are following this guy who is a part of this super, super popular YouTube show. It's this cast of friends who talk about movies together, and they try to do like pretty obscure ones. It is called So Bad, So Good, and it's dedicated to like bad movies, and they have like millions of followers. They have a large Patreon community. They're super successful, but the character that we are, or the character I guess, since it's in second person, so the character that we are following is like the one that pretty much runs everything. He's their main editor, seems to be the one that like goes through movie submissions and all of this stuff. Like he really does the most. He lives at their studio. They have a studio for their channel. And he's like trying to hide that he lives there. And there's this very obscure, elusive, like nobody can get their hands on it, film called Creepies, and they end up getting their hands on it. Some say the film is cursed, that its cast members died in unusual ways. Others claim that the writers, producers, and directors have gone into hiding because of the movie's macabre reputation. Countless viewers have experienced flashbacks to scenes within the film as if they themselves were characters. But surely those are just rumors, right? Let's fire up the VCR and find out. I'm halfway in, and at this point they have watched the movie as a group, and we are watching our main character spiral with it. There's like certain aspects to it that remind him of certain things, and he's starting to like try to figure out where the tape came from and like figure out how the person that sent it to them got their hands on it. There's like weird things with that. There's weird things with the cast members. There's like this scratching noise in the walls. It's interesting. I'm having a really good time with it. I wouldn't say that it's anything that is like the best thing that I've ever read, but it's interesting and I'm liking where it's going so far. I don't really know what the point of this is going to be, like what is going to happen. Like, is something going to happen, or are we just going to watch the paranoia? I'm down for either one. I don't know if this is going to be quite 5 stars, but I'm still having a really good time with it. I have finished Bad Movie Night, and I'm going to give this one 4 stars, I think. The direction that it went in was very interesting, and I liked how everything wrapped up. I don't know if that is the correct term, but I liked the direction this went in. So for this, it was said to be weird, psychological, creepy, and a sense of dread and unknowing. And I would agree with all of those things. The direction that it went in was really weird. There were these elements throughout that were like, what is happening? And then just like, I don't know, everything about it I really enjoyed. I'm not exactly sure what made this 4 stars instead of 5 for me. I just never got like as invested as I wanted to be. I don't know if that's just because like I didn't really care about the character, or it could have been the fact that it was in second person that just like slightly kept me from being obsessed with it. I feel like it being in second person made sense because you were supposed to feel exactly how this character is feeling, but there was just something that didn't work exactly for me, and I just can't put my finger on it. But I think this was a really fun story. I was not expecting the things that happened in this to happen. This idea of this very obscure movie where they're watching a copy of a copy, and then the things that come from it just like led to a good story. It felt pretty unique to me. I don't know, something about it kept it from being 5 stars, but I really liked the things that were done in here. It's so hard to talk about a short novella. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but I ended up really, really liking this one. I needed a win, and usually horror novellas do that for me, so I'm really happy with this. I really think this was Kelsey. I think if it was anybody else, it would maybe be Sarah. I think that if Monica had read this, she would have talked about it. I am pretty confident with Mel and Cassidy, at least the 2 that they gave. And I don't know, I just feel like this is too obscure, and I feel like that's Kelsey's thing. So I'm going to go with this being a Kelsey choice. I have found that Kelsey is really good at recommending me books. We don't always line up on our taste, but I think she's generally really good at like seeing other things that have worked for me and picking something else that will based on that. So even if this wasn't Kelsey, I still feel that way. And I'm really glad that I read this. I have never heard of it, and it was a really fun read. I have started another book. I went with A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. This one was picked because of quite a few items: isolation, fast-paced, psychological, sense of dread and unknowing, sarcastic character, science-y, and genre blend. I truly still don't know if this is YA or not. It feels like it 30% in. I have not read anything from this author before, but it is a school setting with younger kids, and it just like reads pretty young to me, which at this moment I'm not having any real issues with. This one is so character focused, which isn't a detriment, but I feel like I need a little bit more of the plot. There are things happening, but I feel like the focus of the story is the character, if that makes any sense. So we are following, what is our character's name? Do we know? I feel like I'm losing my mind. Oh, Gal. Okay. I was like, this is not an unnamed character. Anyway, we are following Gal, and she has just decided that Orion Lake needs to die after the second time he saved her life. So there's this very popular guy, and at the very beginning, there's this like creature that tries to sneak into her room, and he ends up killing it, and then like things stem from that. So there are monsters around this school and cursed artifacts and magic, and our character is very hated by everybody. Apparently a lot of people dislike this character as readers, and then in the book, she like says that nobody likes her. Her mom is this like big general or something. And I feel like at this point I can't tell you much of the plot for some reason. It is a very stream of conscious character. We are very much in her head. We're not just like watching things. We are the character. Like, her thoughts are our thoughts while reading this. I think she's funny. I really like this character. Not enough for it to be completely carrying the story for me, because there's things like My Heart is a Chainsaw where the character of Jade is what the like best part of the book is for me. And in this one, the character is interesting and I like her. I just feel like I need a little bit more outside, not outside things, I don't know how to explain it, because things are going on, things are happening, things are like being explained, but there's just something that's not completely clicking with me. As it goes, I can see it getting a little bit better and me getting more invested, but at this moment, not that I don't care about anything, but I don't like desperately need to know the answers. I think that the like magic stuff that is going on is really interesting, but it doesn't feel like so unique that it's like standing out to me. There's just a lot of focus on Gal and this Orion and their relationship that they have. So generally positive thoughts, but I am a little apprehensive. This is one that I was like really interested in reading. Mel, who I think is the one that picked this book for me, even though I don't think she loved it, is the one that like really introduced me to the plot of this book. Like, I knew the book existed, but she told me about it when I visited her earlier this year, and it's been one that I've been wanting to pick up. But this isn't like a happy-go-lucky school. Like, characters don't like each other, things are going bad, and then there's all these monsters that are outside. So it's intriguing enough to keep my attention. I am looking forward to continuing with it. It's a fun take on like a magic school, and I'm liking it. So I've actually finished A Deadly Education. I was 2/3 in, and I was going to update you, but I was like, I truly have nothing to say. And at the end, I still don't really have anything to say. I'm going to give this 2.5 stars, which generally just means that I was really bored while reading it. I just didn't really care about anything that was going on in here. I enjoyed our main character, but at the same time, I don't know if it was the way that it was told or what. I like just didn't care about any of the plot. There was like weird relationship stuff in here that I didn't care about. I had like no thoughts about any of the side characters. I wasn't invested in anything, so I didn't care when the like more high action stuff was happening. I don't know. I thought this one was going to work for me, and after the first third I was on the like positive side because I liked the character, but even then I was like not invested in it, and I was thinking it would get better as it went, and it just did not for me. I do agree with the reasons that this was picked for me. Like, it makes sense. I thought I was gonna really like this one, but that was not the case, which continues to be the theme of this video. I don't know what it is, but I have been trying to read out of my comfort zone a lot more recently, and I think I need to step back from doing that. I think I have not been reading as much as usual, but I've been reading the same amount of books outside of my comfort zone and not really loving any of it. So I'm excited to get back into 2 books that are more in my genres. I do know that The Other Side of Night, which is the next book I'm going to be reading, is a genre blend, but this one scares me because I've actually DNF'd this book before. I tried to read it last year. I got 20% in, and I was like, I don't like this, and I'm extremely bored. So this is a scary choice, but it is the next pick. I have heard a lot of good things about this, and like the fact that people said this was such a weird book, I was like, in what part? Because the part that I read was not. So I am going to force myself to get further in than I did last time, because what's the point of even reading it if I don't try to get further? Because obviously it gets weirder later on. I don't know. I'm also really scared for this. I feel like this is going terribly, and I'm so sorry. We are joined by Winston. We are actually also joined by Nova. But she's on the other side. He looks a little grumpy right now. But I get it, because I am a third into The Other Side of Night, and I really desperately wanted to DNF this, like, even 10% in this time. I don't like the writing style. I have found that I don't tend to like books written by British men. Well, actually, that's not completely true, because my favorite book of last year was written by a British man. But I feel like a lot of times they're just so dry and I don't like the writing style. And that is how I'm feeling about this. The plot is so slow moving for me, which is very interesting, because one of the things I was said about this from one of the 2 was fast paced. So 2 people both chose this as their pick for me. I'm pretty sure it was Ashley and Jordan, just like Process of Elimination, and I don't know if anybody else has read this. So one of them says weird, psychological, science-y, and a genre blend, and the other one says fast-paced, weird, science-y, and a genre blend. So as of right now, I don't think this book is fast-paced. It's not weird. I guess it's a little psychological, but like I'm not getting that yet, and there's no really science-y or genre blend stuff. And the fact that those things are applied to this book is the only reason I am continuing. I just like am not connected to anything. I don't care about any of the characters. We're getting a lot of backstory on this romance. James Patterson blurred this. Interesting. So we are following a disgraced police officer, a grieving author, an elusive suspect, all bound together by a series of mysterious deaths, and a boy named Elliot. So I feel like our main character is Harriet. She is a police officer trying to clear her name, and she discovers a curious inscription in a second-hand book that says, "Help, he's trying to kill me." And then that leads her to David, who was last seen stepping off of a cliff, and then he is the suspect for his wife's death, but everyone's like, why would he leave his son behind? And then she like finds her primary suspect, but it's somebody she used to date, and there's like a whirlwind romance between them, and he abruptly broke up with her, and she's like, but I love you, and has been like very heartbroken by this. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't really know where the weird stuff is going to come in, when it's going to start really being a genre blend and science-y, and just like, what? I don't know. So truly not loving it, but I am going to keep going. I'm curious about how this gets to be these things. So that's my motivation, not the book itself. So you know how earlier I was talking to you about how I was not liking The Other Side of Night? I am now 100 and, I don't have my glasses on, 63 pages. I couldn't tell if it was a 6 or an 8. I'm going to DNF this book for the second time. I tried really hard. I know that I am close to the end of part 1, like very close, but I'm just so frustrated reading this book. There's just like something about a book written by a man that is from the perspective of this woman who is just like going on and on about how she's so obsessed with this man that just like really bothers me. I don't know. I don't want to read a book where I'm just like listening to this woman complaining about how this man broke her heart and how she still is in love with him even though he was so mean to her, but he's like acting weird and maybe is a murder suspect, but like, I don't know, he's the one. It's really frustrating. There's like something weird going on in the background, like this man is like acting very sketchy, but I just know that with the way that I enjoy / don't enjoy books, if I'm this annoyed by this point, even if I enjoy the stuff later on, I'm not gonna like it still, like overall. So I am going to DNF this one. I am officially DNFing it. I'm not coming back to it for a third time. I will be looking up spoilers because I want to know why this is so weird apparently, and like the genre blend and science-y stuff. And I was liking the like court case trial stuff that was going on alongside this. I won't tell you much about that because that comes into play a little later on. I liked how that part was done, but I was just so frustrated with this character. I don't know, it didn't feel realistic to me. Like, if you lost your job because of a situation and then you are investigating to get your job back and you find out that your ex, who you went on 3 dates with and then he broke up with you, is the likely suspect. I don't know. I don't get it. I have a terrible track record with British men. Also, I was so frustrated because we are following Harriet for like the entire book, and why is a man narrating this? I don't get it. It's I'm frustrated with this book. I'm frustrated with the book itself, and I'm frustrated with the fact that I don't like it because I want to love this book, but it's not a book for me. It's not. I'm not having a good time. I'm not having a good time with this video. Okay. Well, moving on. We have one more book. So, Intercepts needs to save this whole thing. If this is not 5 stars, I'm gonna cry. So, no pressure to who's the last person. This is probably Sarah's pick. No pressure to Sarah. I need to love this one. I could cry. I'm loving this book so far. I am 107 pages into this, and oh my gosh, it's so good. The first chapter in here made me like feel weird, like but in like the best way possible. I don't know. It was just I don't know, something about it like just made me feel gross, and like thank goodness. Also, this book that I got from the library is like weirdly sticky, and I hate it. So if I'm just like sitting here, here's the book. It's just, actually, I'm gonna have to put it down. Like, I gotta go wash my hands. Anyway, so I'll show you the cover real quick. This is Intercepts by TJ Payne, and I have lost my sticky note that says why this book was picked. I'm pretty sure it was just fast-paced and psychological. Those two things would make sense to me. Maybe weird and psychological. It doesn't feel like weird. I am pretty sure fast-paced and psychological. I will double check that and get back to you. I film on my phone, so I cannot do that at the moment. But it is 100% psychological. So we are following Joe, who works... Okay. He works at a facility that performs human experimentation, and his work has followed him home. The government wanted to unlock hidden abilities in the human mind. They put subjects in extreme sensory deprivation. All the test subjects went violently insane, but the research continued. Today it has been perfected, almost perfected. I love psychological stuff, and I think in this context, it's like a little mix of like sci-fi stuff, which I love. I love the idea of like experiments being done in a horror book, because like it gives me like this like intrigue, and then also like gross, disturbing things that I want, and like that's just the perfect combination for me. If I had to pick like a genre blend of anything that I feel like would tend to give me more of my favorite books than anything, it would be sci-fi horror. Anyway, that was a tangent. So the first chapter starts off from the perspective of somebody that's in one of these sensory deprivation things. No, it was, no, that's why I felt so weird. I was like, I hate this, but like in the best way possible. Like I read the first chapter twice. And then after that, we are following Joe, who is like the guy in charge of some of the stuff at this thing. So after the first chapter, we are seeing Joe, who is our main character, and his wife that day has died from an apparent suicide. And he has a daughter. I say wife, his ex-wife. So his daughter lived with his ex-wife, and he is very much like absorbed with his job. But he like obviously takes his daughter, and then she like is seeing this weird thing, and I'm like, what is this? And then there's like connections that are made, and it's just so interesting. I'm so obsessed with this already. I don't think that the writing is anything. Well, actually, if a chapter could make me feel so icky, I feel like that's great. I don't care if it's like standard perfection writing. I don't care about that at any point. I'm not here for like fancy sentences and stuff. That is not why I read. But this is just going so well for me. Like, I, at this point, would predict that this is going to get 5 stars. There's not much competition at this point, but I do think that this is going to be my favorite book of the video. Thank goodness. I mean, Bad Movie Night went really well, and I really like that, but, like, I'm feeling obsessed with this at this moment. So, fingers crossed that it keeps going like this. I really think it's going to. I think the direction it's moving in, like, it's just gonna be so interesting and fun. I am so relieved and so happy. I'm obsessed with this book. I have made it 224 pages and I just got to chapter 25, so I'm about 2/3 of the way in. Okay, once again, this book is sticky. I'm putting it down. The direction that this went in, I'm obsessed with it. It's so interesting. I can't talk about any of it because it's a spoiler. This feels like sci-fi horror. I'm just so obsessed with it. There's just moments where I'm like, it's so good. Incredible. I earlier this year was supposed to read The Venue by this author, and I've been putting it off because I don't have an audiobook for it, but I'm going to be reading that one immediately as well. There's just something about this book that is working so well for me. I really love books that have like science-y, like experiment, psychological stuff in it. Oh, speaking of that, I did look, and the 2 things that were put for this were fast-paced and psychological, which completely agree. I would also say that this is science-y. It is science-y in a psychological way, but not in an overwhelming way at all. I desperately want to talk to you about the things that are happening because it's so cool. Like, I'm seriously obsessed with it, but I don't want to spoil too much for you. This is one that for me, the plot is definitely carrying it. It's not like I really care about the characters or anything. I mean, objectively, the stuff that is happening makes our main character kind of like terrible, but it's just so interesting. It's so interesting. Thank God this is going well. I really desperately needed it in this video and in my life. Maybe I do like reading still. I was getting a little bit worried. So I'm super excited to finish this up. I have less than an hour left of the audiobook. I cannot wait to figure out where this is all going. I don't think it's going to be one that has like shocking twists or anything, but I don't need that in this kind of story. So, it's going so well. I cannot wait to keep reading. I forgot to take out my bookmark, has been one of my favorite books of the year. It was so interesting and fast-paced and just had so many aspects of books that I tend to really love. Oh my gosh, it was so good. I really liked the things that happened at the end. It was not the most shocking thing that happened, but like I really liked it. I really liked it. I am so happy. I was like seriously starting to think that maybe the problem was me and that I was having a bad time, so I was not liking books. And that's not the case. I'm still kind of having a bad time, but I'm obsessed with this. Like, oh my gosh, I love this kind of story. I just love psychological stuff and stuff with like little science-y elements in it and just like weird things. It's not that weird, but it's not like normal things. And just, I don't know, it was so interesting, so good. I am obsessed with this. I'm pretty sure that Sarah is the one that picked this. But I don't even know what her thoughts on this book were. I'm gonna have to find her video where she talks about it. I'm so glad I read this. So glad. I love it. So, 2 DNFs, a 2-star, a 2.5 star, a 4-star, and then a 5-star. I was expecting this to go a little different than it did. I thought that I would like more things, but it's fine. It is what it is. Let's see if I was right and who picked each of these books. Okay, I am at my computer and I am getting my spreadsheet up. I have had it so that the name was hidden so I couldn't see anything. So I am going to unhide that. Before I get into this, I just want to say thank you so much to all of my co-hosts for Escape the Readathon, especially the team leaders. They put so much into it. A lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of videos, and I just could not be more thankful. I highly recommend all of their channels, so please check them out in the description. I'm just going to go in order of when they submitted their books. So, Intercepts was Sarah. A Deadly Education was Mel. Boys in the Valley was Monica. The Book That Wouldn't Burn was Cassidy. Kelsey was Bad Movie Night. And The Other Side of Night was both Ashley and Jordan. So, I actually think I got them all right. I think it makes sense with their reading taste and like watching their videos and like generally knowing what they're reading. That sounded kind of creepy. Anyway, I did not love everything in this video, but I still highly recommend all of their channels. Also, officially Escape the Readathon will be returning in May of next year. I already have so many things planned for it and it's gonna be so much fun, so I hope you join for that. If you've made it to the end and want to leave me an emoji to say you were here, you can leave me a hand for Intercepts, and I will see you very soon. Bye.